it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew, and so we have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean, we have Spigs18 or Anthony, and just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and go over to YouTube and give us a sub. We greatly appreciate all the help going forward, growing our channel. It's been amazing watching us grow, and yeah, thank you so much for all that support. But yeah, before I keep going on, Dean, what are we doing here today?
Man, it's a great night tonight. Please give a warm welcome to our guests, Jonny Sims and Alex Newall of Rusty Quill. Just to give a brief rundown of Rusty Quill, straight from their site, Rusty Quill is an industry-leading independent production company and podcast network. It was founded in 2015 and works to originate, find, and develop, fund, and produce, distribute exceptional media content from all around the world. Jonny Sims is a writer and co-creator of Magnus Archives and is also the voice of head archivist Alex Newall. And Alex Newall is the CEO of sorry about that. Co-creator of Magnus Archives and also the voice of Martin Blackwood, one of the assistant archivists at the Magnus Institute. So, without further ado, guys, welcome. Would you please mind saying hello to our audience out there? And we're going to get right into this thing.
I can't believe I missed that trick. I should have called the character Alexander J. Newall, and I would have voiced him. Head Archivist Alex Newall, voiced by me. The additional chaos. Can you?
No, absolutely.
Even more confusing. The only way to make it more confusing. My sole regret in this world now. Anyway, hello everyone. It is indeed your boy Jonny.
And the titular Alex Newall.
This is getting off to a great start.
I love it. And this is what we do here at Cypher Unlimited. We invoke the chaos and have fun with it.
Before we even start asking your guys questions, right? Let's just go over the Magnus Archives backer kit stat numbers. You guys are 1,000,000 right now.
I am not looking at it until it's over at this point. I'm the same. If I look at it at this point, that's it. That's my next 48 hours or whatever, just staring at that number.
Oh, Jonny coached me how to do crowdfunding. Was like, right, you're allowed to look in the first 48 hours and the last 12 if you must, but everything in between that is just a recipe for staring at your screen and just watching a figure.
That would kill me. I would wind up scratching my skin off if I couldn't look.
To be fair, I find that it's like the thing that gets me scratching the skin off is like if I am looking too much during the middle period where it's like it slows down, because those first 24 hours where it's just like it feels so good that like when it starts to slow down you're like no, the number it's not going up.
The number must go up, Jonny.
Well, if it's anything like any of the other MCG Kickstarters, there's usually the last 24 hours usually has this huge, uptick in backers and money added. So I'm still in the camp. It's going to hit 2 mil. But right now you're at 1,600,000 with 48 hours left to go and almost 9,500 backers, over 9,500 backers, which is still great.
I'll be honest. For me, it's like I want it to cross the 10 grand backers threshold because like the money that's all great, but like I want as many people as possible to get a chance to play it.
Oh,
plus, what is it they say? If you have 10,000, if you have 10,000 fans, you can do anything, right? You ever heard that phrase?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think you're definitely gonna hit the 10 grand. I mean, 10 grand backers, definitely.
Oh, look at the.
Oh, well, then you can finally go into politics.
Hello, mate.
He's beautiful.
Oh, sorry. This is Spancelot. Yeah, he's realised that people are there that might look at him, and he wants more attention.
He wants to be seen.
Aren't we all? Don't we all want that? So, we heard Monty's version of how how Rusty Quill and MCG got together, right? For this project. Can you tell us your version of how the partnership formed? And was MCG always your first choice if you were going to make an RPG?
Good question. Do you mind if I take
No,
a jump on
please.
this one? Whatever Monty said. No. So yeah, basically, back when, so we have a working relationship with a group, Old Gods of Appalachia, through the podcasting side, and basically, obviously, they did the did a crowdfund with Monte Cook previously, and then we ended up being in direct contact with the Monte Cook Games team, basically just because of that, and being like, "Hello, we're doing our check-ins because we're meant to, whatever." Ended up talking, and then we're like, "Well, I mean, you guys are pretty much as good as it comes on the RPG scene, and I got this really big podcast over here, you know, and it's like that meme where it's just someone with a stick saying do something, and I was just like, well, you could just sort of had the initial meeting with Monte Cook, kind of assuming he'd be like, yes, hello, I suppose we make RPGs, and I suppose we do, and then he was like, yeah, so I'm like 160 episodes in, and it was just like, oh crap, and then he started asking like, oh, just, you know, these quick initial questions, and it's like, it's really deep dive really quickly. Okay, yes, here's the exact brand of tape recorder, and here's the, you know, here's the exact meaning of that specific word in that episode and why or whatever, and it very quickly became apparent that not only was the system compatible, which, you know, shocker, but at least at my end, I won't speak for Jonny, just Monty knew his stuff. Like I deal with a lot of people, and yeah, done his homework, didn't even begin to describe how prepped Monty was straight out of the gate on that one.
Monty definitely knows his stuff. Also, you pitched it to them?
Yeah, I think sort of. It's a bit of a mixed bag. It was a bit more like realizing the things that could pair up. I don't actually remember if it was us explicitly like pitching to them. Certainly they weren't like begging or anything. It was a more mutual like, well, you're extremely good and this is extremely compatible with RPGs. It felt like an obvious step, but again, I'm aware that like Jonny was in the first initial meeting that was very sort of, are you a cool normal person? You're a cool normal person. Well, I'm quite a cool normal people. Great, yeah, okay, let's do some business.
So from my point of view, it's been sort of a kind of long journey to it being an RPG, because obviously, like, you know, me and Alex are both have been playing RPG. Like, I mean, Rusty Quill started with an RPG actual play, and I've been like playing and running games since I was 8-9 years old. So like we right from the jump, we were always talking about like, oh, is this like Magnus? I think it could work quite well nicely as an RPG, and so a lot of it was like gradual discussions between the two of us about like how to do it, and like there were various efforts like within Rusty Quill that got to varying degrees of completion. Like myself and my partner Sasha sort of run a small RPG company called Bug Up and Company, so there were some discussions about, well, you know, like, do we work on it? What do we do? But at the end of the day, the scale of, like, by the time we were in a position to sort of pursue it seriously, the scale of the Magnus Archives as a thing kind of had outstripped like any of our capacity to actually do it. And like looking at the numbers on the back of kit, I feel very vindicated about being like, oh no, we could not have we could not have done this on our own.
I remember doing very minor play tests back in the day. Do you remember where we were like, oh, here's a mechanic, let's test it out, whatever? But
yeah.
Scale doesn't quite.
But and so when Alex was like, "Oh, I've actually been having some preliminary discussions with Monte Cook Games about maybe doing one," I was like, because obviously, like, I came up gaming in the 90s and early 2000s, so obviously, like, you know, a lot of Monte Cook's stuff was like pretty seminal to my development as a gamer and GM, and so he was like, "Monte Cook Games are fast," and I'm like, "Brilliant. That's it then. Let's have that meeting, get those terms sorted."
What kind of genre does MacGuffin Gaming work on? Do you guys also deal with horror and suspense?
So we do a variety of stuff. We tend to do like the smaller indie stuff, like our biggest products so far is a collection of like system neutral micro settings, like some of which are horror, some of which are more like comedic, some of which are like more fantastical. It actually won a little award at the UK Games Expo, which was nice. But yeah, and we've got various other small systems and zines and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty powerful. But you know, and the fact that a lot of the stuff you're doing is system agnostic, that just fits well with Cypher system anyway.
Absolutely. No, we actually like at the front of that little book, we've got a section which is like, because different micro settings work better or worse with different systems, and like Cypher is one that we mention as like Cypher works with pretty much all of these because that's the nature of it.
Awesome. So yeah, we need to get links up there for that book as well, so you know people will know about that because because I definitely.
But the thing is, like that was crowdfunded, and like we knocked that crowdfunder out of the park. We made like almost 40 grand to make that book. So that gives you a sense of the scale that I'm looking at the numbers on the Magnus Archives, and we're like, I'm really glad it's not the two of us trying to do this.
Well, I definitely want a copy of that book myself, so I'm going to be looking for it when we get down.
Even if it was just your two, was definitely doing more than 40 grand. So right now, 40 grand is the coffee order for.
I mean.
So, I mean, on top of all of that, you know, you guys, you know, the fiction podcast, there's Rusty Quill Gaming Podcast, where you mainly play Pathfinder. But also, you do one-offs and other systems. What RPG has been your favorite to play with other than Pathfinder? No shade against Pathfinder. Just trying to find out what else you guys enjoy.
It's fine. I will explain that actual play the way I have everything, which is, you know what's really important in an actual play, regardless of the system, is being able to actually run it. And when we got started running the recording equipment and directing the show and doing all of the editing and doing all of the stuff and GMing at the same time, I needed a system that I knew inside and out, which admittedly was Pathfinder, although diehard fans would be like, you fudged that rule. It's like, yes, because Pathfinder grapple rules are god-awful. But mostly it's because it lends itself to long play stuff. In terms of the systems on that one, we played a bunch. There was ironically, one of the ones that I've most enjoyed is one of the ones that we barely ever touched on, which I know is Jonny has a massive soft spot, which is a certain weird Western system. Jonny, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but that was one I wish we'd have done more in.
I mean, like the Savage Worlds, like to be fair, like Deadlands is one of like my formative games. Like I played a lot of it when I was a teen, like Deadlands Classic, which is like it's wonderful. It's so evocative. Everything takes forever. You know, you're drawing hands of cards for like single actions, and a combat will take like 4 hours. But it's like a really. Yeah, and Savage Worlds streamlines it in all the sort of the right ways. Like I haven't played Deadlands in ages actually. I think because like since we've started doing me and Sasha started doing our own stuff, we've been like very much drawn to smaller, lighter, more like weird systems where we can kind of pick them apart and be like, oh, what are they doing? And Savage Worlds is like one of these very like quite crunchy like systems that feels a little old school to me, and that like it does a classic RPG adventure very well, but there's not as much for us to like pick over and dissect, you know.
So have you been using Suede? Have you been using the newer, you know, the Adventure Edition? Because you know they did make some modifications.
Yeah, I've
a bit smoother.
Yeah, I've not actually had a chance to properly grapple with the new edition yet. I had a read through when it first came out, and I was like, oh yeah, these are some pretty interesting tweaks. But I haven't had a chance to probably get my teeth into it yet.
I love how Jonny said, it's awesome. Everything takes forever. That's sort of like my love affair with Palladium games. Like I had that. It's fantastic. Everything just takes forever.
See, that's so interesting because I'm an odd one where whenever everyone asks the question, like, what's your favorite system? It always depends on what the game is. So it's like I don't know, Mothership, I think it is very, very good at what it does, but I wouldn't use it to run like, you know, a fantasy. It does its thing, and like most of my favorites tend to be like, listen, do you want to tell the story of Alien? Use this system. do you want to tell the story of this thing over here? Use this system, whereas the big, huge, broader ones, which I actually, include a bunch of the Monte Cook stuff. It's so broad that it doesn't never tends to make my like go-to list, because I'm always looking for that odd little niche thing, and that's not because it's bad. It's just it's so broad that unless you're dealing with something really broad, I always tend to find the weird stuff. Like my actual favorite ever is a game that no one can play, which was we gave a preview to an app that someone had made, which basically did all of the DMing for you. I don't mean a DM-less game, I mean it DM'd for you with like algorithmically generated reveals and stuff like that. The reason I loved it is it broke during play, thus resourcing in the most fun game I've ever had of like post-apocalyptic everything. It's like, oh no, and you find underneath the settlement a disguised missile silo. Game carries on, we're like, cool. And then underneath the missile silo you find another disguised missile silo, and there were like 4 layers deep of missile silos. So genuinely one of the most fun games I've ever had was a literally broken system. So I don't know if I'm necessarily
so your favorite game was the one that you just invented yourself because the thing broke.
It just broke so hard that we were dying with laughter. But yeah, I've never had that experience since. I've never been 4 layers deep in secret missile silos all the way down, and I don't think I ever will again. And that was a pretty special moment.
That's pretty nice.
Someone in the chat says, so Area 51?
Yeah, basically.
Area 51, 52, 53.
Yeah.
RPG is always super fun when the rails kind of break a bit due to some mishap of some sort, whether it be the system being mismanaged or just literally breaking, or the players or whatever taking you off the rails. It's always a blast when things don't go quite as planned.
I mean, unless you're GMing, in which case, like, stop, just do the thing.
I actually love when players do that crazy nonsense. It gives me a chance to think on my toes.
I'll tell you guys, if you ever get the opportunity, though, to delve into Cypher, you're probably going to find out it's the system, because I've never had a favorite system until Cypher, and I've been doing
Cyphers are really I've yet to play a full campaign through in Cypher, but every game I've played of it as like it suits my style, to be honest. Like it's that very sort of it's telling that one of the systems we've been working on for a while, like I gave it to, so this was before I'd played much Cypher, I gave it to someone to have a look, and I was like, I really like this system. I've been like, it's been percolating for a while, I think it's really good. And he looked at it and was like, oh yeah, this is basically how they do it in Cypher. And I was like, oh, I should probably play Cypher.
No, I'm just saying, I've been gaming for almost 50 years, and I tell you, one system, never could say I had a favorite until now, you know.
Definitely got to give Cypher some tries in the near future. But yeah, moving along a little here. How did the Rusty Quill form as a company, and how long have you guys been working together on projects?
Do you want to tell the story, or shall I, Alex?
I tell you what, I'll start with when company formed, and then I'll hand over. How about that? So company formed in 2015 because I was making an actual play, and then was told, you might want to minimize your liabilities there. You don't want to accidentally get in any fights. I was like, fine, I'll make a company. Jesus, nothing's gonna happen. I'm just gonna make this little dinky podcast, and then I'll move on and get a better barista job or something. And then obviously that actual play kept growing and growing and growing, at which point I was like, you know what, I should probably talk to Jonny, but I feel like I'll hand over to you, Jonny, at this point, as our first meetings were quite specific.
So me and Alex used to work the same night shift job, week on, week off.
Awful night shift job.
I loved it. It took exactly 0 of my brain, and I could just listen to the spooky stories like 7 nights a week. It was great. But like we got on really well, and we both were doing separate like kind of creative-y stuff. And at the time, I was part of a space pirate cabaret band that was it was amazing fun, and I remain very proud of a lot of the stuff we put out. But we were going to the Edinburgh Fringe because we did each year. And Alex was also going to the Edinburgh Fringe with, I think you were directing a sketch comedy troupe at the time.
Back in the day, I would break away by, I was doing about 6, because I would direct 1 or 2, and then I would tech a bunch more to pay the bills, and then I'd do a bunch more. So God knows.
Well, we were both at the Fringe that year. I think this was 2013, I want to say. So must have been 10 years ago. I was actually looking this up today because I was chatting with someone. It was 2013, Alex. This was this.
God.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you should come see my show. And Alex went, yeah, of course I'll come see your show.
I'll definitely come see this thing.
Yeah, of course. But strange, but like through some miracle, he actually did come and see it. And he was like, "Oh, this is actually
really good."
It was really good.
It made me look like such an asshole because it was really good.
But he actually approached the band and was like, "Hey, like I'm starting this podcast company. Do you want to like do something with it?" And we had a chat, and we're like, "It takes us like a year to put together like 8 songs for an album. There's no way we could do something on a podcast schedule." But because
Jonny, come on.
Oh my god! Wow. But I'd been, as part of this job, I found this old radio archive of like all these old sort of 30s and 40s horror shows, and so that had been like percolating in my brain. And it was the time that like the sort of the first generation of like, you know, your OG horror podcasts were coming out. So your Pseudopods, you know, Sleep podcasts, your Knife Point horrors. And I said to Alex, I've been thinking about like, you know, maybe doing a like a horror anthology podcast with like me as like the archivist, like a sort of a host character. And Alex was like, great, just give it a meta plot, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome.
And whatever you do, don't use your own name. Make sure you use my name.
Hey,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it happen, but now you know that's gonna.
Oh no, it's too good a bit.
Before I ask my next question, both of you guys have an improv background. Do you guys improv any of the script after it's written?
Oh, good question. I've never had that question before.
To be fair, I don't have a full improv background. We've both got like stage performer backgrounds, and like I've done improv as like theatre exercise. I've never done any like proper performance improv myself, but I think there was like it was less sort of it's a lot harder to improv for audio, because a lot of the way that it works for like this sort of audio drama is you do multiple takes that the editor can then sort of swap between or like slightly amend or stitch if they need to. And if you're changing up what you're saying each time, it becomes a lot harder for the editor to properly do it. It was much more that generally it was more on the fly rewrites, I think, than like full on improv. We'd be like, oh, that line's not landing quite right. Let's have a tweak.
I mean, there is one exception. So I actually come from a much more improv background than Jonny. I used to teach improv back in the day, in fact, and did all the Harolds and all that for anyone who's interested in that kind of stuff. But 2 points I'd raise. One, Jonny, is at some point it counts as improv when first draft of the script is coming in 5 minutes into the recording. Like at that point, you might as well be, right?
It's all crafted. It's not a semicolon out of place.
But there is one episode specifically that I insisted was improvised, actually, which, slight spoilery, but not in a way anyone's going to complain, was episode 100. So episode 100 was an episode where basically the conceit was that our main character isn't there, and it's all of the non-main characters trying to do their job, and it just absolutely failing miserably. And so for that one, I insisted that every single person turn up trying to give and here is a spooky story.
Yeah, you had me write that one.
No prep.
You had me write that one in bullet points rather than like actual script.
So that was one where Jonny would write the bullet points like, I don't know, woke up, tired, realised had no face, went back to bed. And then I'd just give that to a former and go, do that. They'd go, I can't do this, I've got no prep. And I went, good. We'd record it, and then when it came out, everyone was like, that was awful. It's like, yes, that is the point of the episode. Thank you for joining us today. So that's the one where we went full improv, but let's just say that the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor made some of the actual core statements look tame. There was, you tell people to improv horror and shit gets really weird. Really
you tell James Ross to improv horror, things get weird.
God, that was an error. That was an error. I will never ever ask him to improv in a recorded medium ever again. He just turns up, and I was just like, yeah, make it as weird as you can. And then
it was
like,
magnificent.
Okay, how about a racial conspiracy? Just to like be as controversial as possible. I was like, oh, Jonny. Not Jonny, sorry. Oh, James. No, God. Stop.
Hey, chat. Also, we're going to ask as many of your questions as we possibly can. And I see you guys, for the most part, you guys are already doing it. But if you have a question for Alex and Jonny, just please preface it with the word question so Al could see it. And we're going to cut and paste those questions to another document so we can ask them at the end. But you guys are freaking awesome because you're already... I guess you're used to the order already. You're putting questions in the front and everything. So I'm going to ask, how closely working with Monte Cook are you on this project? And what are you most excited from the Magnus Archives to see in the Cypher system itself?
So we are like doing consultation. So basically we're having pretty regular meetings with Monty where he will be like, asking questions, or we've got we've got a channel where he'll be like periodically dropping us. It's mainly Monty has questions, we answer those questions. Like we wanted it very much to be like a Monte Cook game. We didn't want to be like butting in and being like, what if the dice system worked like this instead? So like from my point of view, I'm like, it's really quite exciting because like I love everything that I've seen of it so far. So, but there's enough of it that I don't actually know what's coming. That I'm like, oh, I also cannot wait to read this.
I think from my perspective, it sort of came in two phases. So like phase one was like initial meetings with Monte Cook, where I remember he literally just went, okay, cool. So what thoughts have you had prior to now? On what? RPG? Like, all of it. Go. Well, fucking hell, all right. And obviously, because it's a thing Jonny and I have spoken a lot about, so there was a lot of chatter of that, where it was like throwing out mechanics, chucking out ideas for like, oh, how would this work in this? How did this work in this? Half of them, him being like, yeah, that's interesting. I could probably do that, but good. And that is true. Not the way he phrased it, but certainly how it tended to pan out. But we're definitely in the second phase now, which is a lot more consulty. But in that first phase, like full fun disclosure, there was a moment where Monte Cook, and it literally in conversation was like, just generate an entirely new system for this. I don't know. That might be a good idea. At which point I was like, what? At which point then he was like, actually, no, I found a better idea. And yeah, so for me now we're in that phase 2 bit where it's a bit more consulting. The bit that interests me specifically was we spent a lot of time. Again, I've been told previously to avoid spoilering the main show too much because it takes some turns. I'm very interested in the work that the Monte Cook team have been doing on, how do I put it? The feedback system, let's call it, between like fear/stress and character. So instead of it just being like, here's your penalty, off you trot, here's your penalty, it's like there's a lot more of a like risk reward balanced scale element to it, and like sometimes chucking yourself into danger is rewarded, but in a way that's not going to be helpful 10 sessions down the line. And that like there's a very interesting little bit of balance where the system really wants you to get in horror related trouble, and if you do so, it mutates and matures character play, I guess. And that interested me because it it captured something that I find horror games often struggle with, which is like, and then a big scary monster comes out, and everyone around the table sort of looks at one another and goes, whereas for this, it was a lot more like, oh, cool, yeah, you see this incredibly horrifying thing. I mean, you could probably achieve your goal by, embracing it, but that's probably not a good idea. What are you going to do? And then watching people go, wait, hang on. I want the good things, but I don't think I want the bad things that come with it. But I don't know what they are. But the bad things could be good things. I don't know. Like that kind of. I'm all about risk reward.
It's a really interesting answer to, like, for me. Like I obviously love horror RPGs, but it's fascinating that there's a core conflict at the heart of every horror RPG, which is that, like, a horror story kind of needs to remove a lot, like, kind of needs to end up removing a lot of the agency from the people at the heart of that horror story. But an RPG needs the characters to have agency. It needs them to be proactive and, like, trying to, like, solve things or investigate things. So there is this conflict at the core of, like, the concept of the horror RPG that every horror RPG has, like, its own answer to. And so, like, one of the things I've been really fascinated to see is, like, what's like, how's that answered in this game? How's that, like, how's Monte Cook? And, like, it, as Alex has said, it's a really compelling answer for this one, I think.
It's just nice to see people get horror across using character related stuff, as opposed to the one that I see very often is, like, one or two choices, like Jonny says, where it's like, the Lovecraftian sort of, it's beyond your control and there's nothing you can do and it's inevitable, which can feel very railroady when it's like, I make this choice, but all your choices lead to doom. Okay. Or you have the other one where it's like, do whatever you want, and then the poor GM's just running around like, like mad, being like, come on, just be horror, whereas this one's a lot more, the mechanics feed a lot more into, like, character-driven choice in a way that I rarely see in horror, and that's the bit that kind of grabbed me as well, to be honest.
I wanted to see some of the extra stuff you get, like the lightener of book plates. Looks
yeah.
All the extras look amazing.
Yeah,
I love
book. In the print book, that is a freaking phenomenal idea.
Oh, the Monte Cook team! I tell you what, I've worked with a lot of people on a lot of merch, but god damn, they know their gaming merch inside and out. That's pretty much all of their suggestions, with us just going, that's a really good idea. Kind of wish I'd have already done that. That's a great idea. That's also a really good idea. I probably should have done that.
I love props around the table anyway, especially for in-person gaming. I always thought props were always the creme de la creme, and you guys got some great stuff coming, and it basically plucked right out of the the game. Out of the podcast itself. Mm-hmm. So like I've already said, I'm already investing in an old-fashioned tape recorder. I actually ordered one on Amazon, and
nice.
I ordered an old-fashioned tape recorder and about a dozen cassettes. And I'm just going to do that. I'm going to make, statements and stuff like that. And
some statements?
Excuse me?
Jonny, aren't you adding some statements to the backer kit? I saw something on that on Kickstarter.
So I think
I don't think the content of it has actually been officially declared, Jonny. Just as a
okay. In which case, I don't know how much I can say about stuff in that.
There will be stuff that people haven't heard before. There will be content that people haven't heard before, but again, I'm up to my eyes in NDAs for various things, so I can do the tap dance of. There will be things people haven't heard before. What is the nature of those?
Ask
things?
Monty. You
know what? Yeah.
Ask
really
Monty.
like a direct email from every single person viewing the stream.
Just drop him a quick line. I'm sure it'll be.
Right. Here's his personal phone number.
Let me ask this question then.
No, before you ask the question, yesterday at work, a guy he cut himself. I work in operations. He cut himself with this big textbook that we have, like electrical supplies. And I was like, oh, it's probably a lightener. Don't worry about it. I put it down. He didn't understand what I meant. He looked at me like I just started going.
Did we ever do a Lightner technical manual?
I'm not actually sure we did.
I don't think we did. Talk about a missed opportunity. I don't think we did a technical.
So there was, so there was like way back in the day, like early season 2, I think, where we were really looking into like what else can we do in this universe. There was a point where we were like, I think it was me and Ben at the time. We were like chatting about the possibility of like trying to put together like a Twine game or like a series of little.
Oh God!
Little like narrative games. Yeah, and we came up with a list of like 12 or so like possible Lightners that could have like little games around them. It ultimately didn't go anywhere, but I have a suspicion like some of them did end up getting folded into the main. Like Dig was one of the first ones from that from those discussions that ended up in the main series. And I have a suspicion there might have been a technical manual in there, but I cannot for the life of me remember.
I can't remember. It's been too long.
That's awesome. So, this, and I don't know, I keep getting like, it was the questions come around. It's like the perfect questions that I want to ask anyway. So we've heard about stress, critical injuries, crafting statements as a group. Are there any other mechanics in the work that you could, even speak of or, that's going to help drive the immersion? And if you can't speak to that, are there anything that you might want to see added? And we're not trying to pressure you either, Monte, but we just want to see if the guys got something that they haven't said to you yet, because we want it all.
So there was one thing from my end which changed gears a little bit, which was really interesting, which was when we very, very first started talking with Monte Cook Games about basically, what would an RPG look like or whatever. There was a point of contention where, not like an argument, but like it felt like we could only make one choice, which came down to. So, I've got to be careful here. Monte himself was entering the final season as we began our initial discussions. And for anyone who's listened to the whole show, the final season takes a serious gear change deliberately, but in a way that's like, how the hell do you make an RPG that does these seasons coherently? Because the energy takes big, huge shifts. And we did spend a bunch of time at the start being like, how on earth are we going to accommodate that? To the point where eventually I remember Monte being like, I just don't think we can for the last season. I just don't think we'll accommodate it, and that's fine. And then he finished it and just went, oh, no, we're good. What? Yeah, we're good. Yep, cool. That ending.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know what's coming out with that. Yeah.
And that was a really interesting gear change from I don't think that's possible to oh yeah, cool. And in a way that really blindsided me. But we spent a lot of time talking about. Oh, difficult to avoid spoilers on both ends. We spent a lot of time talking about balancing, let's call them types of fear. For anyone who actually knows Magnus Archives, you'll know exactly what I'm getting at. Monte was doing a lot of work as to like how do we make that mechanically interesting and unique for each of the different types of fear and things like that. And I think there's something special there in that the way Magnus Archives works means that you can pretty much convert any horror into that framework. It has a way of coding it, let's say. That plus mechanics equals pretty much any horror you can imagine plugs in really well. In a way I haven't seen before, and that grabs me. Because again, like I say, normally I'm like, I want to do my really specific sci-fi horror and I'll use this really specific system for it, and I want to do my specific shape-changing Western and I'll use this system over here, whereas this one's like, yeah, I can pretty much handle all of those in a way I've not seen before. But again, I suppose I'm talking more about like adaptability of the mechanics is very profound, I guess, rather than like, oh, I like this specific role as a really interesting thing. But Jonny might have a different take on it. But that for me is the adaptability is something else.
Yeah, no, like I'm on the same page. Also, I noticed in the chat some people were reminding us we did do a Lightner technical manual. It was the instructions to the security system for I forget the name of it, but the with all the cameras.
Oh, that was barely technical.
Yeah, like I mean, it technically counts.
Technically technical.
For my part, like, and this is I'm just gonna say this and like and leave it at that, so there's no spoilers. I'm really interested into how rituals might work.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Very interested in how that might like how much that's going to be engaged with and like what we might do with that.
Which is
Actually,
the one thing I can say. No, go ahead.
Sorry.
The only thing I was going to say is that's the one thing you're going to learn with Cypher system and Monte in general. Everything about it is it supports the narrative. The mechanics are supportive of the narrative, and the mechanics are built around, getting your players involved and making the GM's job so much easier. So,
yeah,
and Magnus Archives is just brilliant in general. So you guys I think it's a match made in heaven, because I'm happy as all get out with everything that we're seeing so far. And I know the chat is, and all of us here are fans of it,
Yeah.
I think there was, thinking on it to give you a proper answer, there was one specific mechanic which caught me by surprise and I was really on board with. And it's not a huge thing, but it's a great detail, which was Monty was very clear on like correctly that like Magnus Archives work because it balances like the character scenic stuff with statement based narratives, let's call it, so that you've got them running alongside, and the idea of the statement being your GM's gateway to this I don't want to call them adventures because that's the wrong kind of genre, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah, exactly. So the idea of like the statement being the in, because I'd never seen anyone actually find a way to make the statements properly plug in RPG wise, because normally it's either like statements are basically short stories and then we'll RPG in the stuff that's over here, whereas that statements are a thing and they plug in this way, and then that guides you into this bit of gameplay, which then guides you over here. I'd never seen anything, not even in like fan-based stuff, I'd never seen anyone do that effectively. That's a specific mechanic that it's not going to change the world, don't get me wrong, but it really spoke to, again, the Monte Cook team's like homework on the show, and that was a really clever, smart move, even just a little touch, but really nice one.
It's also interesting for a role-playing game to have the statement out first, and then you're going to sit there like you almost know what to expect.
I mean, I don't think it's literally like, we are going to read all of the horrible things. Now go look at all the horrible things. I think it's slightly more nuanced, but yeah, I've never seen something like that before. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's hella cool.
I'm super excited for the statement aspects. But yeah, moving along here a little bit, we know that the TMA RPG will allow for people to play in their own universes, right? But how much of the TMA lore and canon will we see in the TMA RPG book? Will all our favorite characters, baddies, and locations from the story be present in the book or within this project?
So the idea is that this gives you the tools to, again, without spoiling things too much, this gives you, it is perfectly possible within the world of the Magnus Archives to play in your own world of the Magnus Archives. And so the RPG is designed to give you all the tools you need to essentially create your world, your version of the Magnus Archives. So the question of like, well, how many of the characters from the podcast are there and the same? It's kind of up to you. They are all going to be in the book as options, as like all the lore, all the characters. They are going to be there, whether you use them or whether you use them as like kind of templates for your own stuff. Whether you're talking about specifically specifically Brecon and Hope, or the Delivery Men, and you have your own, and you're like, oh well, I really like this as like a concept, but I'm not going to be using these specific names, these specific characters. So like there's a lot of flexibility in how you want to construct your Magnus Archives world and where you want your characters and your archives to sit in them.
I always think of it as all the bits that you want are in there, and are transmogrified in a way that makes them like usable and playable, and like all the stat blocks that are needed for whatever are in there and so on. But I always gently point out that yes, you could include every single element of the podcast, but you know what would happen? You would end up with the podcast story. Like if you put all of the same pieces in the box, the best you could manage is a what if, I guess, which is like, what if, this character had a dud roll early in season 1? How does that play out? But yeah, all of the bits that you want to do that are in there, but I would gently encourage people that maybe don't use literally all of the bits, because then you're doing the kind of game I don't tend to personally enjoy, which is, hi, we're all side characters, whilst the main character of our world is off solving all of the problems, and you get to watch how badass and cool my Mary Sue is. But again, that's a personal taste thing. You could do that. It's physically possible.
You like the same mind. I feel the same way, Alex. I really do. That's it.
Those early horror stories of like a first-time GM where the NPC is doing all the great stuff and all the characters.
It's possible to do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can.
To be fair, like I have a weird affection for that era of like late 90s RPG design, where every RPG setting was full of like these super powerful GMPCs that like the writers have put in because they're like, I've had the idea for the coolest guy, and all your player characters, you get to meet this cool guy.
No, but fine. Then they die to the Balrog to give the player characters some time to stretch their wings. But then you come in later because you can't really trust your party to actually deal with the big problems at the end, right?
But broadly,
to kiss the ring.
But broadly speaking, like talking about like the characters and the monsters and the like events, all that sort of stuff from the series, like it's in there in the same way that like every like to reference a different hated system, every monster you could realistically want is in the monster manual somewhere. Are you going to play with all of them? Probably not. That'd be a very busy game, but they're all there.
And we did set a rule at the start, but again, like there was no pushback at all, which was that the books for this needed to have an appeal as sort of lore compendiums unto themselves, which is we haven't actually published, print published a bunch of lore for Magnus Archives before. We haven't. And so as a result, we were like, listen, we want, because of the nature of our audience, a lot of our existing audience are gamers, but not all of them. Some of them have never played an RPG before. And there is that element of collectors where it's like, I want it. Why? Because I'm really interested in like seeing how this translates is not the same as I want to run this game. So it was a rule at the Rusty Quill's end rather than Johnny's end necessarily, of being like, we want this to feel like something that even if you're not a gamer, you could get and be like, oh, cool. So this is an interpretation of this thing, and so that's how that could work with that. That's cool, so that it has some unique lore stuff to it, because otherwise, I mean, if you strip all the lore out, let's be honest, it's maths. But so effectively, what we wanted to do is lean a bit more into, the thing should be readable rather than just a dense codex with no character to it, I guess.
I mean, I have very specific and personal thoughts on like the nature of like canon and lore and this sort of thing, and like how actually functional anything other than the original text can ever be as like a sort of a lore bible or whatever. But I did also, when I was like 15, buy a copy of Call of Cthulhu, not because I wanted to play Call of Cthulhu, but because I'd read a bunch of horror stories. Was like, oh, what are all these weird monsters? I really want to know all about them. I'm going to buy this book that gives them all stats and like descriptions, and definitely quantifies the unknowable horror. So like, I very much get the instinct to be like, No, I would like a book to just lay all the lore out, please.
Hey, there's nothing that horror likes more than being put into carefully organized tables where every single mystery is revealed. That's really good for horror, right?
I love it when a deeply thematic metaphor for like the crushing weight of modernity does you 1d20 sanity damage. 1d4 if you succeed at your resistance check.
With you know, go ahead.
I was say I'm going to go into the next question, Dean. If you want to say something before I go in.
No, go ahead. Just go ahead. It's good.
All right, you guys just mentioned your audience and your fan base. Like, I didn't realize how passionate
people underestimate
fan base is. Prior to doing our research, your fan base is freaking awesome. Like they post pictures, they post poems all over social media. What are you excited to see the fans do in regards to the RPG? Like you're gonna have a ton of statements written by fans, new fears, actual tape recordings. Is there anything that you're excited to see the fan base recreate?
I treat the fan base with a healthy degree. Like I love our fan base. I am terrified of our fan base. I am very excited to. I'm excited to hear all the stuff that they do, that they get up to, and I am like. I'm really excited for them to just get the chance to dive into this as deeply as they want.
There's two for me. One is you mentioned like new fears and stuff. I think that's interesting because again, I'll phrase things carefully for anyone who hasn't finished. You can divide things up in different ways, and it's still compatible. And I think that there are entirely different ways that things could be divided up than how the Magnus Archives does it, which I would love to see, because we literally don't get to play in that playground, really, because our playground's over here. And I really want to see what new playgrounds people come up with. That's so coded, but anyone who knows what I'm talking about, it's like, yeah, I know what you mean. But I would say, as a minor digression, at the moment, as like promo for the sequel, we're running an ARG, an alternate reality game. If you want terrified, passionate, and organized, holy crap! People have been like going, I'm pretty certain I can get some supercomputer time to break this specific puzzle and stuff like that. So I think one of the things is just what heights people are going to be able to reach. Because, I thought I was an okay GM. I thought I was all right, but
you're pretty good. Yeah, you're pretty good.
I'm starting to become aware of like a lot of the fan base are a lot better at this than I am, and so I kind of want to see what castles in the sky they can build at this point.
That is freaking awesome.
I want Jonny to know that they're terrified of you as well, and they wanted you to know that.
They think they are, but
there's more of them.
They don't. Yeah, there's so many more of them, and they have so much more time than I do.
What you don't realize, Jonny, is
they coordinate. They all coordinate in terrifyingly organized ways that just defy logic.
A quick aside before we move on to Dean's next question. We have kind of seen that, and it's kind of a promo too. When Invisible Sun first came out, the secrets involved in that box with Monte Cook Games, when they said there's stuff hidden within it, the community came together like, it was mind-blowing to see the level of they were going to find these secrets and coming. Oh, it was amazing.
Oh yeah, like I'd have to say now,
all the secrets still haven't been found.
So that's the impressive bit, because Christ, you put a few thousand people who can actually organize themselves together in that. Shit gets weird. It gets really weird really quickly.
A couple people in the chat are accusing Jonny of being a cannibal.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. obviously I'm not a cannibal. That's an absurd thing. I can't even believe I'm having to deny this on Twitch.tv again. I think I've addressed this many times, and if any way, I'm not a cannibal. It's as simple as that. You can believe me.
I mean, is cannibalism even a crime if everyone's consenting?
No, I mean, obviously, cannibalism in and of itself, morally neutral act. If I was, it would probably be fine, but I'm not. So everyone can just relax.
I believe you're not a cannibal, Johnny. You know.
Thank you.
I
Not a cannibal anymore. He got rid of it. He got over it.
All right. So here's a great question for you. You know, and this one I really want to know the answer to. Will you guys be playing the Magnus RPG on Rusty Quill Gaming Podcast? What universe are you going to set it in? And can the Cypher Unlimited crew be guests on the show one day?
I might answer this one, Johnny, if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
There are plans to play this on audio. I cannot go into more specific stuff because I have to meet the Monte Cook Games team kind of halfway. Otherwise, I'm just declaring things for them and they have to just run to keep up. And I feel like that's a bit of a dick move. But yes, like this will be played on air. But I won't go into where, when, how at this stage, because if stuff changes, people always get disappointed if it's not where they thought it was going to be or whatever. So
I love the idea of just... I'm just going to answer this and just like commit Alex to a huge campaign.
Yes, there's going to be a 700 episode campaign in an entirely new show, and all characters will be played by Jonny. And yeah, no.
Oh no, I'm not in it. I'm not in it. I'm just I'm getting a few points off the back end, but I'm not actually in it.
And can we be guest stars on a couple of episodes?
That's one of the ones that I can't answer, but I'd say I'd be more than happy to have you.
This guy.
He would be there.
It would be a rotating cast every 2 weeks with all new people.
Well, yeah. Apparently, a rotating cast of new people every 5 minutes was a bit much.
So, my next question is, as we're winding down and we're getting towards the end here, I want to ask my question, but I have to ask it in a coded way because I want to avoid spoilers as well. And we already know the answer for your two characters on the show, but you two personally, if you had to pick one of those things that, we categorized, what would you guys pick? And again, be as spoiler-free as possible, but yeah, what would you guys, as people, individuals, pick?
After you, Jonny. Well, it's a very difficult one for me to answer because they all came from how I personally conceptualize and sort of subdivide a lot of my own anxieties and fears. So like tying myself to a specific one is very difficult because they all feel very, they all feel very personal to me. That said, I love a bit of horrible body horror. I love some grotesque, twisted nonsense. So you can take that as you will.
From my end, I want to use something on the record again as many times as possible. If you can kick it, I'm not afraid of it. Okay, so like, oh no, mold. I can kick mold. Mold's kickable. Doesn't bother me. Oh no, war. You can basically kick war. So yeah, it's fine. The ones that Jonny can pull his faces all his want. I maintain if you can kick it, it doesn't bother me.
No, I'm not. I'm just like, I know for a fact you've spent a good deal of time trying to kick molds. And I did a
good job because fuck it, I got rid of it.
You needed chemical assistance, is what you needed.
Yeah, I chemically kicked some mold. I still won. But yeah, from my end, realistically, I think I always tend to give two answers, which is I viscerally respond more to stuff to do with thalassophobia than I should. So that's like being in the open ocean, things like that. Very strong swimmer. A strong swimmer in what looks like an infinite void beneath my feet, full of Leviathan things, the likes of which the world has yet to see, does still get me when it shouldn't. So I probably that's a bit of a real one. But the one that speaks to me most, which is a little bit different, might surprise people because I don't think I've ever officially said this, is there's a bunch of stuff to do with being buried alive, right? But for me specifically, it's where it gets metaphorical. So bear with me on this. It'll sound like a joke, but I am being serious. I don't mean, oh no, there's earth on top of me. Don't get me wrong, that's scary.
You can kick
I'm talking more like, exactly, you can kick dirt, so it doesn't bother me. But what does bother me is stuff like, there's some analogy stuff where it's like buried alive and how that equates to stuff like debt. How that equates to stuff like imposter syndrome or like the weight of academic stuff bearing down on you and things like that. That's definitely mine. It's not like, oh no, I'm in a coffin. It's more like, hi, yeah, so you woke up yesterday, you didn't realize, but actually you have £1 million worth of student debt and no one told you. Figure it out. Like that grabs me. So yeah, it's a bit of a esoteric one because most people are just like, you know, oh, that thing that's eating my leg, but no, I can kick that.
Oh, look at Alex with his deep metaphysical existential fears.
No.
But what if a guy had fingers for eyes, Alex?
The thing about eyes, Johnny, is that you can.
Why if they have fingers for eyes?
You kick them.
Yeah, but no, you go, but then their eye fingers are like gripping your foot, and you're like, they get your face.
Yeah, but the thing about feet, Johnny, is that very often people have two of them, so you just kick them with the other one.
Well, this guy has two faces.
Well, good job that we've got exactly the number of feet and faces so that everyone gets what they need.
Feet are normally stronger than fingers.
See?
Not these fingers. These fingers are made of teeth.
And I got on steel toe shoes. Bite that, Joker. I mean, I'm with Johnny. If I can
Finally, a touch of support on my "You Can Kick It" campaign.
I'm sorry. I was in the military. I've studied martial arts for many years. Anything I can fight, it's we're gonna fight. I might lose.
You focus on the kicking. You don't focus on the running.
Exactly. I mean, look. I mean, I got big bullets.
Yeah, all right.
Forgive me, I wouldn't normally draw this comparison, but that's a hell of an American response. How do you kill this eldritch monster? Well, I got an AR-15. I'm sure it's fine.
Before I go into our last question, someone in chat said when Alex gets up, he has like massive legs from kicking everything. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, you only ever see me from the waist down. It's actually legs all out of frame up to like here.
But
and Alex, this is a 30mm chain gun round.
Good grief.
Yo, Dean, we're running a little long. Let me get into the next.
Go for it.
Before we go into our rapid fire questions, right? Is there anything that you want to talk about the Magnus Archives, or you can talk about the Back to Kit project that you haven't mentioned yet?
That's a good question. Let me have a quick gander.
Not that pops to mind. I think I feel like we've there was a bunch of stuff I already wanted to dive into, but I think we've covered most of it. Alex.
At the risk of putting the Monte Cook team on the spot here when they can't reply, I know that they were talking of potentially some more prop-based stuff for any further stretch goals that haven't yet been announced and so on. And I know that this group specifically were like, ooh, props, ooh. I do not know what the final decisions have been made on that, so you can't hold me to it. But what I would say is that some of the stuff that was on some of the options, that's quite cool. Because I like my stuff. I like my things. So yeah,
I love paraphernalia, but I'm currently in a very, very, very small house.
But Johnny, anything with the word scale in the title is automatically, great. But yeah, basically, there's some more stuff that isn't publicly announced, and I don't know if we'll hit it. But I've been wowed by the Monte Cook team's thoughts on that element of things. They're very good at that. So I'd say that, but 50-50 as to whether we see that, I think, at this point.
I mean, I can't speak for the Magnus Archive crowd that's coming into Cypher System, but the Cypher System crowd, we also love our stuff.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting for us.
But we'll see. It could be one where those those stretch goals aren't hit. So I don't want to dive into like all of these things. Then people go, "You didn't hit it. You lied. You're a liar. You lied to me." But yeah, they're very good at that bit. Let's say.
Al, you want to ask a couple of these questions? Some of these questions got kind of spoilers, dude.
Yeah, I was not reading them as I put them in there, but yeah, let's go ahead. I'll what you said. Let's start with the first one because I actually think that's a nice one. It's a nice question that I don't know if we know the answer to. So we have Billy York Fells who asks, "Why did you?" And I guess it's for Jonny. Why did you choose to give the archivist your own name?
So to call it a choice is not in touch.
Accurate,
so initially,
accurate reflection of events. That's what that is.
So initially, when I first pitched Magnus, it was going to be like there wasn't going to be this huge meta plot that came some ways into development, and I was pitching it as a sort of very much standalone little horror stories that had these like little connections. Like I had this idea that like there will be like ongoing plots kind of happening if you read between the lines and like made certain connections between characters in the statements. But I didn't really think of the narrator, the archivist character, as being part of that. I was imagining him as like your Rod Serling or your Crypt Keeper style, like this kind of host and narrator character that stood slightly apart from the stories themselves. And so like literally I think I was thinking of the Twilight Zone when, because like the narrator, you're like, well, who's that guy at the start of the Twilight Zone? Well, that's Rod Serling. That's the man, Rod Serling, who wrote the Twilight Zone. So it felt very natural to me to be like, oh yeah, this is head archivist Jonathan Sims. And then it gradually went more and more into development. This metaplot gradually grew more and more, and at no point, no matter what Alex says, at no point did Alex push for me to change that name, and at no point
I gave you an out. I just
like you mentioned, we discussed it.
I didn't know. I did a classic GM move, which is, are you sure? It's not my fault if you double down on "Are you sure?" Like
I didn't double down, but basically by the time I started to be like, maybe I should just change it to like a character's name, we were already a few episodes into production, and it would have been like it would have undone a bunch of work. So I was like, well, like this character will just have my name. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah,
I can tell you though, it didn't really fit. Jonathan Sims just sounds like a head
I mean, yeah, there was a reason I was like, I can just use my name for this narrator character.
I was gonna say, it's not like you're Bob Smith or something.
Yeah,
Eldritch narrator Bob Smith. Like,
and to be fair, like the only damage it's done is massive damage to my SEO.
It's a lot better than Pootie Tang, the archivist.
Definitely not Pootie Tang. And you wouldn't be able to understand his stories anyway.
You go. You want to ask the next question, Dean, or you want me?
Yeah, sure. So this question is from Swiggly Swoo. What's been something that has helped you with your workflow process?
Largely breaking the habit of deadlines are a big thing. I'm very much a deadline writer, and so getting in the habit of breaking things down into deadlines that aren't immediately before recording has been good, because to be fair, sometimes it worked. The fact that the episode about sleeplessness and fatigue was written, without any sleep, 4 a.m. before the day before it was recorded, Sometimes it works, but broadly speaking, just breaking the habit of being that kind of last minute deadline writer.
And to offer a piece of advice for everyone, there's someone called April Sumner. I strongly recommend every single person hire her because that works really well for me. Basically,
April is our producer for the Magnus project.
A very, very skilled producer, and I'm always a bit of a nightmare to work with, for, and near. So there is something nice about, hey, Alex, I know that technically, like, you're running the company, but also sit down and do your work. You need this, this, and this done by this date. I thought I might do them in a different order. No, you're wrong. Do them in this order. And she's right. So yeah, I don't know if that's particularly what people wanted. If anyone ever wants like more advice, I have spoken before about like different organization systems, especially if you've got like executive dysfunctions. But honestly, getting a shit hot producer pretty much solves all your problems. If we've got real talk.
Amazing answer.
You just said something, Johnny, and I don't know if it was a slip of the tongue or is this foreshadowing, but you said the Magnus Protocol.
Oh yeah, you haven't heard of that?
Yeah. This is the.
Is that going to be something that you're going to be doing?
We're working on it at the moment. We're several episodes into recording at the moment. We did it's a follow-up series. Not like we're doing our best not to call it a sequel because I think a sequel implies.
Jonny, unfortunately, I can now give you the permission because enough people have used that fucking phrase.
Yeah. Okay, so it's so it's a sidequel. It's like a follow-up series that it doesn't directly follow on from the end of the Magnus Archives, but it is an enmeshing, a continuation. It's a follow-up, I think. It's shorter. It's 3 series of 30 rather than 5 series of 40. And we did a Kickstarter for it. Just under a year ago?
December last year, I think.
Yeah, near the end of last year. And we've been in production for it for most of this year, and it should be. I think the full series is starting to drop.
So preview premiere is in October. So all of the backers who are like, listen, I want it hot off the thing. We're doing a preview premiere in October. However, the actual launch is delayed a little bit from that by virtue of. It has a lot of moving parts. Like one of our stretch goals was, fuck it, we'll go for like a full cinematic orchestra. Why not? Hit the stretch goal, went, oh wow, okay. And then it turns out that when you involve huge amounts of third parties, things take a little while because it's really big and complicated. So yeah, we've got preview premiere coming up imminently. That's actually what the ARG is running up to. But then the sidequel. The sidequel is realistically it's looking at the side of 2024, but quite early. I don't want to pin us to a specific date in case I get it wrong, and then again I'm a liar. But yeah.
Well, you guys got to come back and we got to talk about it once it happens, once it drops.
Oh, really, the interviews at the start of a new series are always super, super uninspiring for the interviewer. What can you tell me? Nothing. I can't tell you.
That's why.
What can we expect? Nothing. I can't tell you.
I'm very excited about this series.
All right.
I can't wait for people to listen to it. Like every answer is I'm very excited. I can't wait. That's all we can say.
After the thing finished, like Archives, great interviews, fun, interesting. You get into the nitty gritty. At the start, they're always just.
Wait for you about at least a season in. Have you come?
Oh, there you go. You see, there you go. There you're fine.
Guys in chat, we had to cut a lot of your questions, even though they were phenomenal questions. But damn, these things were full of spoilers. So we had to half the questions. So we have 2 more questions, and then we'll dig deep into our rapid fire questions. Bishi Keeper asks, is there any new avatars or artifacts in the game that was not mentioned in the podcast?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question, and I really hope so. Is fun? I mean, not essentially not from me. We most of the stuff that the things that me and Alex have contributed to the the RPG is mainly stuff from the podcast, and I think a little bit of tertiary material. But like, I'm really hoping that there are like new monsters, new avatars, new artifacts. Like, I am so excited to see like what new cool stuff Monty and the team have put in our world.
I know that the focus has been a lot on, let's separate out the idea of like an archetype from an example, okay? So, I don't know, the anglerfish, episode 1, I feel like I can talk about that freely and people won't get too annoyed. You know, the anglerfish as a thing, that's the example, but as an archetype, it's, you know, you're dealing with ideas of being lured, you're dealing ideas of like dehumanization of a thing, and it's actually not a human, and all this kind of thing. So as a result, I think it's important to separate out like archetypes from examples, where there might be examples. If they are, Jonny and I haven't generated them. We weren't asked to just generate out 60 monsters and add them in like that. But there's a lot more focus on like, cool, if you have a vague idea for what you think would be a cool monster, follow these steps. You now have a cool monster that works, will plug in nicely. We would recommend interacting in these ways, not these ways, blah, 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 blah. So I wouldn't expect... I know I've seen questions like this before, and it normally means, hi, can we have cutting room floor content from the podcast? No, most of the time the reason it's on the cutting room floor is it's bad. That's why it was cut. And we haven't just sat there and generated out a bestiary of monsters, because we're literally working on protocol. If it's really good, I'm going to go ahead and use it in that. Sorry.
Like, I think a lot of it is that like the stuff that ended up not being used in the podcast is either it wasn't really up to scratch, or it's been recycled into one of the many other projects that like me and Alex work on, because like a good idea is a good idea. And also, like, the thing is, there were loads of ideas that for Magnus that ended up not being used in the podcast. And the thing that happened to them was I forgot them. You know, like a lot of it is like when you're cranking out 200 episodes, like there's not a lot of space for like. There's occasional ones where you're like, oh, I might keep that for later, but generally it's just like.
Just check Jonny's historic tweets. I remember all of those lists as like potential monsters, and it's like lamp, but spooky ?
I think that if you're referring to the list of season 2 spoilers, they were all accurate.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Oh my goodness.
We're gonna move right into our rapid fire questions because it's almost like 2 a.m. for Alex and Jonny, and
You mean 3?
3 a.m. for them. So this is
Hey, it's the start of the workday for me. Don't worry about it. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
All the questions from chat from us. You know, this was just prep for our world famous rapid fire questions. Here's where we dig deep into your soul, right? We pull out your essence. We stretch it on the table for the whole world to see. Are you ready for the world famous Cypher Unlimited rapid fire questions?
I was
ready
born ready for the world famous
for.
Cypher Unlimited rapid fire questions.
Oh yeah, chat. Alex and Jonny requested that they keep score. So can your guys in chat keep score to who gives better answers?
Oh no, let's call a spade a spade. I demanded it. Jonny was like, "Hey, I'm quite easygoing and nice," and I was like,
"Look, the thing is,
I play RPGs to win."
Look, the thing is, Alex, it's not a competition. Lucky for you.
You're right.
Oh my goodness.
It's not going to be a competition.
With that smack talk being thrown down, let's dive right in there. And the first rapid fire question: player or GM?
GM.
Player.
Oh.
Pull punches or TPKs?
TPKs.
Sorry, could you repeat that? You broke up for a second.
Pull punches or TPKs?
I'll go for punches.
Ooh. Online or in-person gaming?
In person.
In person.
Announce the difficulty number or keep it a secret?
Secret.
I'll announce it, but I might be lying.
You're just
We
wrong.
have a theme coming out here. Alex is the killer GM.
Salty or sweet snacks
The
at
thing is, the
gaming
TPK one is like so system dependent, to be honest.
See, my games are fun. They're just short.
Salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Sweet.
Salty, I'm British.
Instead of British.
Alex, we didn't hate what you said.
Sweet.
Sweet. Oh.
100%. If I can still see at the end of a game I haven't eaten enough snacks.
Nice. RP or combat?
RP.
Probably combat, and that will surprise a lot of people.
RP. I can't put on as many silly voices in combat.
Combat because I can win.
You can always pull out a silly voice. And you'll win.
I know you can make a silly death noise. You can be like, oh! But
Or you could have some interesting taunts. You know, I mean, you could be like Alan Rickman and Die Hard.
yeah.
Next one. PDFs or physical books?
Physical books.
I prefer physical books, but I have more PDFs.
I mean, yeah.
Pen and paper notes or digital notes?
Digital, because I cannot help it. Every single game I've ever played, I'm like, how can I make this as complicated as possible? And then spreadsheets happen. I can't help it, even when the system is deliberately simple. It's just how I roll.
Off the dome.
Off the dome.
All right.
Getting Johnny to write anything down, including scripts, is a goddamn miracle.
Hey, mate, I plan a session. I've got my playlist. I'm good.
That sounds awesome. That's right up my alley.
Like that.
Here's the last question, guys. Rewritten adventure or original content?
Original content.
I like a pre-written adventure that I've hacked. I like to take a pre-written campaign and like mess it up.
Yeah, in fairness, you're really good at hacking, actually, when it comes to...
Especially a Magnus Archives pre-written adventure. It'll be out soon.
Oh, wait, yes, whatever he said, the marketable thing, yes.
Somebody in the chat said Alex is a monster, but we respect his craft.
Good. That's a reputation that takes years of careful murder to keep.
Oh,
All
man.
right.
46 hours left on Backer Kit. Please go and back this. Check it out. If you're not a fan of the podcast, get into it because you're not going to regret it. This is freaking awesome. They're freaking awesome. We want to support them. We want to support Monte Cook Games, and this is going to be probably the best horror RPG you could purchase. So I can't stress it enough. Go and back the Magnus Archives on Backer Kit.
And on an equal note,
people.
Sorry.
Let's put this in perspective, people. Tell your friends we're $8,900 away from another stretch goal, which is the asset. So $8,900. Tell your friends. Get on this. Tell your local game stores they've got a great level for. They got a great level for retail stores. Tell your game stores so they can get it on their shelves. It is a massively beautiful backer kit crowdfunding opportunity here. This game is gonna rock. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And in return, I would say, and you can quote me on this one. Thank you for like some of the best interview questions I've had in years.
Oh, it's been a great one.
Like nothing, like none of it was generic. It was all like actually like, ooh, good question. Yeah, double plus thumbs up. Good.
I mean, you guys have an open invitation to come back whenever you want to. We love what you guys doing. We love what's happening with MCG. This is super exciting. Not only have you made your fan base excited, you made the Cypher system fan base excited. You opened up a whole new a genre for us, MCG players and gamers. And I'll be honest, I started listening to the podcast after the announcement of the Back the Kit project, and it's been well worth it. I've been totally immersed in everything. That's my train ride to work is listening to 3 episodes, You know, so it's freaking awesome.
Oh, you need to get a shorter commute, mate.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude.
I got hours and change.
Oof.
I listen at my 12-hour job. I work 12 hours a day, and I listen
And
at work. But I have to tell you, I was never into podcasts like this. So you guys, you know, that's something you need to put in your feather in your cap as well, because like I said, now I'm looking for things to listen to because of how good this is.
I mean, I get it. Podcasts are awful, right? Well, who would do those?
Anthony, before you go into our little spiel, but just because we're spreading some love here, I will say I echo Dean's sentiment that I never really intake much media. Like, if you ask these guys, I never watch movies. I don't watch TV shows, nothing like that. But after the first couple episodes of Magnus Archives, I was hook, line, and sinker. I was listening to like 6, 7, 8, 10 episodes a day at work. Like, yeah, so I speed ran that thing, and it was so good. It was so good.
Very kind of you to say.
Thank you. That's really lovely.
So thank you, Johnny, so much for coming on. Anything else you want to tell our audience before I go into my little spiel on the CU?
After you, Johnny.
Back a kit campaign, Magnus Archives RPG. That do it, please.
2 things from me. One, pretty much what Johnny said. Yeah, it's there. The audio assets should be really fun. So I'd recommend at least hitting that stretch goal if we can. And on the separate thing, a thing I've been told to keep mentioning, which is, yes, we are currently running an ARG. There is stuff out there to go hunt and find or whatever. No, this is not part of that. This is a real thing. This is a real RPG.
Don't ask the Monte Cook team about the ARG.
Don't ask the Monte Cook team for clues to a completely
RPG
unrelated thing. They are
is not ARG.
They are very, very separate things. But yeah, honestly, the only thing I'd actually really like to say is thank you.
Augmented reality game for the chat. Someone asked what an ARG was. Augmented reality game. Just so
alternate reality game. So it's one where it's basically anyone can play. It's online, but you don't get told, "Oh, go here." You kind of got to find the game yourself. If you look for it, you'd find it. But yeah, mostly it's just thank you from me. Not many people get to ride this roller coaster, and I hugely appreciate being able to do that. It's quite a privilege, and thank you to everyone who's built that roller coaster, I guess.
And if you could kick it, don't be scared.
You can kick it, don't be scared. Like if this way,
that's going on the shirt. That should be on a shirt. That should be one of the next Cypher Unlimited shirts. If you can kick it.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, Johnny. If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook Games. We have the largest fan-run server for everything MCG. We have games being run daily. And yes, there will be Magnus Archives games once it drops as well. You know, or if Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations being had there daily. Or give us a sub or follow us here on Twitch, or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We're really trying to build both those platforms up, and it would be greatly appreciated. If you want to help us out financially in any way, give us a little donation or Ko-fi, or go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch, like the shirt Dean got on. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yep, thank you guys so much for coming and watching, staying up late.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it has been quite a blast. And yeah, from us at the CU, we will see you later.